Hi, I'm Calla. My family once forgot my birthday. Now they've turned it into a business pitch with my name on the banner. They cut me out of my grandmother's will, forged my signature on a mortgage, and made up a story about my mental health to win sympathy. But what hurts most? They didn't just erase me. They replaced me. What would you do if your family made you the villain in their story? They called my name last. The crowd erupted. Somewhere on the field, a mom shrieked for her son, and a dad whistled so loud I winced. But when I stepped forward, walking across the platform to accept my diploma, no voice called out for me. No hands clapped, no flashbulb burst. Only the practiced smile of the principal, and the heavy silence pressing into my spine. Valedictorian. 4 years of top grades, no skipped assignments, a list of achievements that could have wallpapered the school office. And yet, I stood there, alone, smiling at a crowd that refused to see me. I scanned the bleachers. My eyes instinctively landed on the spot I told them I'd reserved. Row 3, aisle end. Empty. They hadn't even bothered to lie. That night, the lights in our house felt dimmer than usual. Maybe it was just my eyes adjusting to the absence of applause. Mom was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. Dad had the game on. I stood in the hallway for almost a full minute before either of them looked up. I cleared my throat. I got my Blackford letter. No one asked what that meant. I held up the envelope, crisp and formal, like it mattered. They offered me a partial scholarship. It's not full, but with some aid and the inheritance from Grandma Nora, I can... Mom didn't even glance at me. That money's gone. I froze. What? She shrugged, still tapping her screen. We used it. Don't be dramatic. Dad turned the volume down just enough to make room for his words. We spent it where it mattered. My voice was tight in my chest. You mean Troy? You know he needed the help more than you, Mom replied flatly. He had real offers, and we needed the vacation. Don't start with guilt tripping. The room tilted. I reached into my bag and pulled out the forms, the grant applications, the aid calculator, everything I'd spent weeks preparing. We still have time. If we move quickly, I could still... She snatched the papers from my hand and tore them straight down the middle, then again and again, until they were nothing but confetti on the living room rug. You need to stop living in a fantasy, Calla. My body didn't move, but something inside me cracked. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Dad stood up. He looked tired, bored almost. If you don't like how things are handled in this house, you're welcome to leave. My lips parted. Are you... You heard your father, Mom cut in. You think you're better than this family? Prove it. On your own. The next few minutes were a blur. I walked upstairs. My hands moved without permission. Suitcase, toothbrush, the ripped edges of my college hopes stuffed into the side pocket. No one followed me. No one said a word. When I came back down, Mom stood in the hallway, arms crossed like a sentry. I didn't ask for a hug. I stepped into the night, the screen door clicking shut behind me. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows on the cracked pavement. I started walking. The street was quiet, just the low hum of sprinklers and the sound of my suitcase wheels skipping over sidewalk seams. I texted Lena, "Can I come over?" 3 words came back. Doors open, always. When I reached her apartment, the light from her living room spilled onto the front steps. She opened the door without saying anything, just pulled me in, just held on. Inside, I dropped my bag and pulled out what was left of my aid letter. Torn, wrinkled, almost unreadable. I looked down at it. They wanted me to disappear, to fold in on myself and vanish under the weight of disappointment. But I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. This wasn't the end. This was the start of my silence sharpening into strategy. The first 2 weeks at Lena's place felt like standing barefoot in the aftermath of a wildfire. Still warm, still smelling of smoke, but no flames left to run from. I kept telling myself I was safe now, but safe and steady aren't the same thing. I slept on her futon, surrounded by boxes I never fully unpacked. At night, I applied for jobs, scholarships, anything that could anchor me. During the day, I worked part-time at a local cafe just off Division Street, mostly wiping counters and nodding through orders. I didn't think anything else could surprise me after what happened with my parents. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday when I noticed the shift. A woman came in. Someone my age, maybe a year ahead in school. She used to sit behind me in chemistry. I smiled. She didn't. Her eyes barely met mine before she looked away, fumbled her change, and left without her receipt. Later that same day, an older man stared at me for a beat too long, the kind of stare that carries an unspoken story behind it. That night, after I closed the cafe, I asked Lena, "Did my parents say anything weird about why I left?" She was sitting on the floor, organizing her law clinic documents, but her hands paused. That was answer enough. "What did they say, Lena?" She sighed. "That you ran off with some boy, that you're unstable. Your mom told people they're worried for you." My stomach turned. "Are you serious?" "They've told everyone who'd listen," she said, "and a few who didn't." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was grotesque, a grim kind of theater. First, they erased me. Now, they recast me. It got worse. Lena pulled up her phone and handed it to me. A screenshot of a Facebook post from the Bay Spring Neighborhood Watch Group, posted by Elaine Marin. "Our daughter has made difficult choices. She left home with a boy we didn't know. If you see her in the Portland area, please urge her to come home or seek help. Thank you for respecting our family during this emotional time." I stared at the post so long my vision blurred. They didn't just deny me a future. They rewrote my past. "They didn't just erase me," I whispered. "They replaced me." Lena said nothing. She just reached for the phone slowly and closed the screen. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain had curdled into something heavier, denser. Like lead in my chest. I wasn't ready to fight back. Not yet. But something in me had shifted. Later that night, we sat on the rooftop of her building. The air was sharp, the stars too bright. I said, "If enough people say something, does it become true?" Lena didn't hesitate. "No, but if you stay quiet, they get to write your ending." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We both knew she was right. The next day, I got an email from Mrs. Kessler, my old English teacher. "Hi, Calla. I hope you're okay. Your mom told the PTA you had a breakdown and stepped away from school." We were all so concerned. My hand gripped the phone tighter with each word. They didn't just lie about me, they rewrote me. I printed the email, folded it once, and shoved it into my folder, the one labeled Truth. Not to use it, not yet, but to remind myself that someday, someone would need the real version of the story, and I'd be ready. 6 years. That's how long it had been since I last walked the hallway outside room 208 at St. Augustine's Assisted Living. The walls still smelled like lemon cleaner and loss. I told myself I was here for a legal errand, nothing more. But when the receptionist handed me a dusty archive box marked Nora Kingsley, my hands trembled before they touched it. I had requested medical release forms, paperwork to help Lena build a case for a friend, nothing to do with me. But what I found, it was never just paperwork. A thin manila envelope, misfiled beneath a consent form, held a copy of my grandmother's original will, signed, notarized, dated 1 month before she passed. My name was on it, clear as day, split equally between my grandchildren, Calla Marin and Troy Marin. My heart dropped. It had been years since I asked about that money. I still remembered the way my mother's voice clipped short. "It's gone. We used it where it mattered." I had believed her, but here in my hands was the truth. The version before they doctored it. The version where my grandmother remembered me. I sat down on the floor of the file room, papers scattered across my lap, and let the silence close around me like a vice. They didn't just take money. They took what she wanted for me, what she trusted them to deliver. Her final wish, reduced to a convenience they chose to ignore. They lied to her too. Later that night, back at Lena's apartment, I pulled out an old digital recorder we'd saved from Grandma Nora's room after she passed. I hadn't touched it in years, had almost forgotten it existed. Lena had stored the backup on a cloud folder, but it was the physical device I wanted in that moment. I pressed play, static, a click. Then her voice, soft, aged, fragile, but unmistakably hers. "Gregory, please make sure both of them get the money. Promise me. Don't let Elaine talk you into anything else." I stopped breathing. There it was. Confirmation. Not just a will, Not just a line in ink, but a plea, a dying woman's final instruction, and they ignored it. Or worse, rewrote it. I played it again and again until Lena came out from the kitchen and saw my face. "You can use that," she said, voice low. "It's enough to challenge what they filed." I didn't answer right away. My fingers hovered over the pause button. "Not yet," I whispered. "Not until they try to take something else." Because it wasn't just about what they'd done, it was about what they believed they could still get away with. I wasn't going to be the girl who got cut out, who vanished without a trace, who let them write the story without her name in it. That girl was gone. In her place was someone colder, someone quieter, someone who knew that silence, held long enough, could cut sharper than any scream. I uploaded the recording to a locked folder labeled Truth. Then I deleted it from the cloud. If they wanted this story to stay buried, they should have burned the roots. One day, I'll make them listen, but it won't be on their terms. The call came just as I was closing the last tab on a quarterly report. My office was quiet, too quiet for the tension that would follow. "Hi, sweetheart. It's Mrs. Ellis from Bay Spring. Just wondering if you'd be sending that repayment soon." At first, I thought she had the wrong number. Then she said my parents' names. Then she said, "For your college tuition." And then my chest went cold. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "I'm sorry, repayment for what?" "Oh, well, your mom explained it all. A few years back. Said you were having a rough patch and they didn't want to bother you directly. But I figured now that you're doing well, you'd want to square things up." "Square what up exactly?" "The 12,000, she said, like it was casual. Like it wasn't my breath being stolen out from under me. "I never knew about that loan," I said quietly. A pause. Then a voice tinged with sympathy. "Oh, honey, your name was mentioned all over it. I only helped because it was you." I ended the call without saying goodbye. I stood for a while, staring out at the skyline. I felt detached from it, like everything outside the glass existed in a world where people didn't get turned into fictional characters to serve someone else's narrative. When I told Lena, she didn't even flinch. That's emotional identity theft. Symbolic, and maybe more. "She thinks I knew," I said. "She's not the only one who will." I nodded slowly. "They didn't just use me, they sold a version of me that doesn't exist." That night, I took a train to Bay Spring. Told Lena I needed to see it for myself. Mrs. Ellis met me at a small cafe off Main Street. She looked older, softer. Her hair was thinner, and her eyes darted with the kind of anxiety that comes from being caught in someone else's lie. She brought a folded note from her purse. "I kept this in case you forgot," she said, pushing it across the table. I unfolded it. Handwritten, neat, feminine. It read, "Thank you for your kindness. I'll repay you as soon as I'm stable." Signed, Calla. It wasn't my handwriting, but it was close enough to fool someone who wanted to believe it. I traced the signature with one finger. "Do you still have the envelope it came in?" She shook her head sheepishly. "Elaine dropped it off. I didn't think twice." I asked if I could keep the note. She nodded. I didn't rage, didn't cry. I just smiled politely, thanked her for her time, and left. On the train back, I stared out the window, my reflection fractured in the glass. I recorded a voice memo on my phone. They think they can distort the truth, but paper lies differently than people do. By the time I got home, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't afraid. I was still, focused. I scanned the note and stored it in the truth folder, right beside the voicemail from Grandma Nora. It sat there on my screen like a lit match waiting for kindling. They made me the villain to get a loan. I'll show them what a villain does when she's cornered. It started with a brunch photo. Saturday morning, coffee half cold on my desk, I opened my inbox to a message from Aunt Teresa. No subject line, just an image of my mother standing at a podium, tear-streaked and holding a crumpled tissue in one hand like a prop. Behind her, a banner read, "Women of Strength, a community of healing." My stomach turned. I clicked through the photos, her with her hand on her heart, her head bowed, hands clasped as if in prayer, and finally, the caption beneath it all. Elaine Marin shares the moving story of her daughter Calla, who found her way back home after years of estrangement. I didn't know whether to scream or laugh. They were rewriting the ending. Again. And this time, The lie came wrapped in a bow of redemption and applause. I didn't even realize I had dialed Lena until she picked up. Calla, what happened? They're staging my return, I said. My voice was flat. Apparently, I'm a prodigal daughter now. A pause, then a sigh. This is a setup. Watch them ask you for money within the week. I looked at the screen again, scanning the smiling faces in the background. They don't want reconciliation, they want branding. Later that evening, I made the mistake of checking the event page. Dozens of comments under the photo. So proud of Elaine for sharing such a personal story. Forgiveness is powerful. Glad she came home, family first. I hadn't stepped foot in their house since the night I walked out. I hadn't said a single word to them. And yet, here I was, back in their narrative, wrapped in bows and Bible verses. And then came the video. A cousin sent it to me. Thought you might want to see this. The screen opened with a gentle piano melody. My mother stood alone, backlit by stage lights. Her voice cracked as she began. I just want my daughter back, she said, trembling. We all make mistakes. I forgive her. We forgive her. Applause. The kind of applause you get when you say something people want to believe. I paused the video on her face, one single tear trailing down. Theatrical. Practiced. Maybe even rehearsed. Forgiveness for what? For being discarded? For not becoming what they needed in order to keep their lies neat. I didn't cry. I didn't text anyone. I just closed the laptop and sat there, letting the silence pool around me. That night, I recorded a video of my own. Just for me. Just for the record. They talk about forgiveness like it's air they gave me to breathe, but forgiveness without truth is performance, and I'm not their stage. I didn't post it. Didn't need to. Not yet. But the shift had happened. Quiet, controlled, permanent. I wouldn't yell over them. I'd outlast them. A few days later, I got a notification. I'd been tagged in an article titled, Family Restoration, The Marins Show What Grace Looks Like. They'd crossed the line. They'd told their version long enough. Time for mine. The envelope was oversized, gold-trimmed, and unnecessarily heavy. It arrived Monday morning, slid under my apartment door in a courier sleeve like it was something urgent, important. The card inside was thick, embossed. Celebrating family bonds and future opportunities. It read in looping cursive, followed by keynote guest, Calla Marin, investor, investor. I stared at the word so long it blurred into something absurd. They weren't inviting me home. They were branding me again, this time not as the rebel daughter, not even the lost one. Now I was a prop for their next pitch. I didn't smile, just folded the invitation in half and pressed it flat on the kitchen table. So this is how they plan to welcome me back, I murmured to myself. I went, not because I wanted to be there, but because I knew if I didn't show up, they'd find another way to use me. At least this time, I'd see it firsthand. The house looked smaller than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the grass was yellowing in patches, but the backyard? Fully staged. White tents, rented tables, catered buffet line. A banner hung between the trees. Happy birthday, Calla. There were no photos from my childhood on display. No old yearbooks, no hand-painted signs. Only glossy flyers for Troy's new community fitness center, laid out on each table like take-home brochures. I was barely 2 steps onto the lawn before someone asked me, "So how involved are you in Troy's business plan?" Another leaned in, whispering, "That pitch deck he's been working on? Genius. I assume you're the seed capital?" I nodded through it, smiled like my jaw wasn't aching from restraint. "Still reviewing," I said. I found Lena near the edge of the crowd, sipping ginger ale and scanning the scene like a lawyer at a deposition. "I told you this would be theater," she muttered. "Didn't think I'd be the opening act," I replied. Then came the toast. My father stood, lifted his glass. "We're here tonight not just to celebrate our brilliant daughter." He paused for applause. "But to honor the unity that brought us here, and to look forward, to Troy's dream, and to the sister who believes in him." I didn't flinch. The projector screen lit up behind him. Slides of gym layouts, market comparisons, quotes from fitness bloggers. The final slide read, "Seed goal, $150,000. Potential lead, Calla Marin." The audience clapped. A few heads turned toward me, expectant. They didn't want me back. They wanted my money to come home. At the buffet, my mother approached with a smile so wide it hurt to look at. "Isn't it wonderful to see everyone together again?" I sipped my drink. "Yes, it's always nice when people pretend well." She blinked. "Excuse me?" I handed her my empty glass. "You can have that." I didn't make a scene, didn't rip down the banner or call anyone out. That would have given them another angle. Calla the ungrateful, Calla the dramatic. No. Let them celebrate. Let them think I was still playing their game. But on the drive back, I took the invitation from my bag and held it up against the window, the streetlights bleeding through the words. Then I took a photo and sent it to Lena. Caption: Stage set. Let's write the closing act. It was a Saturday afternoon when Mia showed up unannounced, holding a floral gift bag and her usual nervous smile. "Mom said I should bring this to you," she said, handing me the bag like it might burn her fingers. Inside was a photo album, leather-bound, overly glossy, with my name embossed on the cover in gold. I already hated it. She left after an awkward hug, and Lena came out of her office just as I was flipping the album open on the kitchen table. I saw myself in the very first photo, not metaphorically. Me standing beside my mother at a baby shower I never attended. I blinked, turned the page. There I was again, at a birthday party with balloons I'd never seen, sitting beside my father at a picnic where I clearly didn't belong. My face was smiling, eyes bright, posture perfect, perfectly fake. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. Lena leaned over my shoulder. "Zoom in." I did. The shadows were off. The lighting didn't match. My body seemed too sharply outlined, as if pasted into the moment. "They're rewriting you," she said. "Not just the story, your literal place in it." "They erased me once," I said. "Now they're inventing me?" It wasn't nostalgia. It was propaganda. A few hours later, I got a text from someone I hadn't heard from since high school. "Love seeing you and your mom together again." That hug looked real. The album had gone public. Facebook posts, printed copies at family functions, shared like proof of healing. A family restored, photographically, surgically. They didn't just betray me. They violated me. I wasn't mad anymore. I was ready. "You want a fake version of me?" I muttered as I stared at the image of me hugging my mother. "You're about to meet the real one." That night my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. "Calla, it's your dad." I didn't speak. "We didn't want to worry you," he said, "but the house might go into foreclosure." I stayed silent. He continued. "Your mom thought maybe you'd consider helping, just until things level out. You've done well for yourself." I let the silence stretch. It felt heavy, thick. I wanted him to sit in it. "This family gave you everything," he added. "That did it. You gave me nothing I didn't have to earn again. Twice," I said coldly. "Once when I was a kid, and again when you buried me." He exhaled like he didn't know what to say next. I ended the call before he could figure it out. I sat on the floor, back against the fridge, breathing shallow. Then I stood, went to my laptop, and opened the folder I hadn't touched since Lena helped me name it. Truth. Inside, screenshots, audio files, photos, forged documents, copies of every lie they'd spread. I wasn't just holding receipts. I was holding the script they tried to erase. If they wanted the story to end their way, they should have written the truth. Lena didn't say anything when she handed me the file. She didn't need to. The expression on her face said enough. It was the look people wore when they had to hand you proof of betrayal. I opened the folder slowly. Inside, a scanned mortgage agreement, co-signed by me, except I had never signed it. My name was there in black ink, the handwriting nearly flawless. Almost perfect. Almost. But I recognized the curve in the C. It was a match. My old science fair certificate, the one Mom had framed in the hallway for years, she'd traced that signature. My breath stuttered. "They didn't just use me," I said. "They stole me." Lena stayed quiet, her eyes on mine. "We can press charges. Fraud, identity theft. It'll hold up." I shook my head. "No, I don't want to destroy them in court. I want everyone to know exactly who they are." And I meant everyone. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table and opened a folder on my laptop I hadn't touched in years. Marin Files, I'd labeled it. Inside, voicemail recordings, screenshots of Facebook slander, scanned copies of altered photos, and now, the mortgage document. I scheduled the dinner myself, a Sunday night. Not a birthday, not a reunion, no pretense, just, we're inviting the family over. It's time. They showed up, of course. My mother in pearls, my father with a bottle of cheap wine and a plastic smile. My brother Troy, dressed like he'd been forced to. The others filed in, relatives who had once turned away when I was 15, now sitting with quiet curiosity. I stood at the head of the table. No plate, no drink, just a laptop and a remote. "Thank you for coming," I said, voice steady. "I wanted to share something with you all tonight." Click. The room dimmed as the TV screen lit up. First, an audio file played. Grandma Nora's voice, cracked, tired, but resolute. "Gregory, promise me you'll give it to both of them. Not just Troy, both." A few people shifted in their seats. Next slide, a screenshot of my mother's Facebook post, calling me unstable, saying I'd run off with a boy. A lie wrapped in maternal concern. Then, side-by-side photos, one real, one doctored. I pointed. "That's me. That's not." Whispers, a gasp. Finally, I projected the mortgage document. "This is a legal contract they filed 2 years ago," I said. "That's my signature. I never signed it." The silence was thick, suffocating. My mother's hand fluttered to her necklace. "Calla, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I cut in. "You wanted to control the narrative. Here's the unedited version." My father stood. "You're trying to humiliate us." "No," I said. "I'm trying to end the lie." I closed the laptop. The TV went black. Nobody applauded. Nobody protested. They didn't have the energy. Or the defense. I left them there, in that too bright dining room, under chandeliers I once dreamed of seeing light up my birthday cake. Lena was waiting in the car. I slid into the passenger seat and exhaled for what felt like the first time in years. "They wanted me to be quiet," I said. "I gave them history instead." We didn't speak on the drive back. There was nothing left to say. When I got home, I saw the call come in. "Mom." I let it ring. "Now they want my voice. Too bad I gave it to the world instead." The morning after didn't arrive with vengeance. It came quiet. No ringing phones, no emails, no doors slamming or voices raised. Just light creeping through my window, soft and clean. I sat on the edge of my bed, bare feet planted on the cold floor, letting the stillness settle. It should have felt like victory. But justice doesn't sing. It doesn't dance or cheer. It just ends the noise. I made tea instead of coffee. The kind Grandma Nora used to drink. Black, no sugar. I took my time, let the water boil slow, let my hands shake only a little. Lena texted me a screenshot. My cousin had posted something vague. Sometimes the truth is louder than the lie. Mom's Facebook had vanished. I didn't reply. Let them rebuild their story. I've already started living mine. A few days later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, blue ink on ruled paper. "Bree, I wanted to thank you. Not because you fixed anything for me, but because you made it impossible for me to keep lying to myself. I've left Troy, enrolled in nursing school again. It's going to be hard, but this time it's mine. Good luck, Calla. We both know what it costs to walk away." I folded the letter and placed it next to the photo of Grandma Nora on my nightstand. Some cycles break. Some people choose better. 2 weeks later, I hosted dinner for Lena and 2 of my coworkers. Nothing fancy, just homemade pasta, red wine, a Spotify playlist that couldn't decide between jazz and early 2000s indie rock. We laughed a lot, about nothing in particular. It felt honest. At one point, Lena raised her glass and said, "To earned peace." I smiled and clinked hers. To chosen family. Later, when the dishes were done and the quiet returned, I sat by my window and looked out at the lake. The lights across the water flickered like whispers. I used to stand there wondering how far I'd have to run to finally feel safe. Now, I didn't need to run. I walked into my office, turned on the desk lamp, and opened my laptop. The folder labeled Truth still sat on the desktop, unchanged, untouched. I dragged it to the trash. Then I emptied it. I didn't come back to make peace. I came back to make truth, and I had. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means no longer needing the fire to stand. I used to think survival meant staying quiet, letting people write whatever version of you was easiest for them to live with. But the truth is, silence isn't peace. It's just another prison. What I've learned, through every lie, every manipulated photo, every closed door, is that healing doesn't come from being accepted. It comes from accepting yourself first. There's something powerful about refusing to play the role others assign to you. I didn't need revenge. I needed clarity. And once I had that, everything else started falling into place. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to walk away from your own family to become who you were meant to be? Have you ever been rewritten in someone else's story? And what did you do about it? If this story touched something in you, let me know. Drop a 1 in the comments, or share where you're watching from. And if it didn't land for you, tell me why. I'm here for your honesty too. And hey, if you want more stories that challenge, heal, and maybe even provoke a little fire inside you, don't forget to subscribe. Let's keep walking through these stories together. Your voice matters here.